Hi everyone, and today we're going to be looking at using quotations in your text response essay. So first of all, I guess a really big important tip is to actually, when you're thinking about writing your essays and what you're going to say, relate it back to the discussions that are happening in the classroom. So, think about your teacher actually asking you the questions like, why do you think that? What proof do you have that you actually, have that opinion? Why do you think that about that character? You've always got to come up with the evidence or something from the text or something you've read to back up your answer. So it's exactly the same in an essay. You actually need the evidence, which is the quotes out of the text to prove your point. One important thing is that sometimes less is more. Don't write huge, great slabs or copy massive quotes out of the text. So usually in one paragraph, you only need one or two brief but to the point quotes that are supporting the point that you're trying to make. So we've got an example here. So we'll read through it. So it says, Gerard remembers his father seeing Sam and saying blood, gesturing to the deep-seated connection between them all. This makes Gerard realise the strength residing in family relationships, including those he has with Rachel and Sam, which in turn are crucial to his own identity. Nilsson was a father, he was a husband, he was a son. Page 31. So you can see here even the quotation of that word blood, which is a quote from the text, and also that last quotation, really effective choices that resonate and prove that point that we're trying to make, that there is a deep-seated connection between especially the men in that family. So you don't need to copy out a massive whole paragraph, which is an example of when Gerard had a moment with Sam or with his father, just keeping them short and concise and really clear. Now we know this already, but fluency, or the way that your work flows and is easy to read, is really important in the marking of your work. So it's really important to use Teal that we've gone over in class to structure your ideas when you are writing. We've got an example here. I'm just going to go through and we can practice seeing where Teal is in this and where we've used the quotations. So we all know that the topic sentence is generally at the start, so that we're being very clear about what it is that we're actually talking about in this part of the essay. So here we know that the topic sentence is just this part here. So where it says minimum of two creates the sense that troubled families will prevail and if they stay together through determination and persistence in hard times. We then have to go on and we have to highlight or use highlight what the examples are or the evidence from the text that proves that. So we start our evidence or our first E here. So in this example, we're referring to two stories, the story Gravity and also the story Lapse, which is about Queenie and her family. So it says, like the Nilssons in Gravity, the Cooksons are a family of three living in a Perth suburb. Past events haunt the married couple, but a young child gives meaning and direction to the present. So I would expect in the rest of this paragraph that we're going to talk some reference to the Nilssons, but also to the Cooksons. These events still weigh heavily on Queenie, and she takes to the ocean in order to swim it all out. So there's a quote here. Using her experience of crisis to develop and mature as an individual. Winton uses water as a common metaphor for buoyancy in life. His characters are barely staying afloat at times, but it is those close to them that keep them afloat. The importance of family to Queenie is shown when she takes Cleve and Dot to what had been her grandfather's farm. Although there is a keep out, so it's another quote, sign on the gate and the caretaker refuses to let them in, Queenie drives down to the beach. It is evident that Queenie is a strong-willed woman, willing to take risks for what she loves and is passionate about. This contrasts to Gerard Nilsson, who has struggled to keep out of his comfort zone as he believes he can't do it. In a way, these characters are juxtaposed, Gerard being the result of what happens when you do face the past and let go of it, and Queenie a demonstration of the strength that comes from doing just that. So you can see here that there are 3 direct quotations from the short stories that have been used. Again, they're just short and sharp and to the point. But the important part is the actual explanation of those quotes. So the explanation doesn't have to be just left to the end of the paragraph. If we're thinking about teal, as you do 1E and then the following one is left to the end and then you have your link, you actually need to explain or elaborate on that quote and what you understand about it directly after you've written it. So we can see here with this first quotation, swim it all out, using her experience of crisis to develop and mature as an individual is part of that. So we're showing that we understand the action, that what she was doing and why she was doing that. But we've also gone into explaining about the metaphor of water here as well. Okay, so he's actually used that as a metaphor for that buoyancy of staying afloat. So we've actually shown and explained our understanding of the author's techniques as well. With this next one, that there is a keep out sign on the gate. So Queenie drives down to the back to the beach. So we start the explanation here. It's evident she's a strong-willed woman willing to take risks for what she loves and is passionate about. And we've explained that this contrasts to Jera, which makes them juxtaposed characters, or kind of ones that are in opposition to each other or showing different characteristics. The last bit is that we should always, as we know, link off to the next idea. So our link off to the next idea here would be usually always at the end before we're going into, logically at the end. Here the reference is to Queenie as a demonstration of strength that comes from actually facing your past or your fears, or actually working on your inner issues. We would expect that to be the focus of the next paragraph being discussed in the essay. So I guess the most important part, or not the most important, but the thing that you need to probably do the most and focus on the most is your ability to actually explain what you understand about the quote. So the key things is that you need to explain what language features has the author used to make the quote effective. So not just what it's telling you about the characters, what it's telling you about the themes, but what have they actually done as an author deliberately to make you evoke an emotion or think a certain way about something. So for example, use of metaphors like that one using the swimming in the water. Descriptive language, it might be a realistic dialect, in a slang or something to make us resonate with a character. For example, in Minimum of Two, there is a lot of repetition of the term blood. So actually thinking about what does that mean, why is he using that term a lot throughout the stories, especially about Jera and Rachel. Another example would be the actual use of the surname Nilsson, which we'll go on to talk about in the next. So how does the method affect the reader's understanding of the character and themes? So if we think about this example of Nilsson, here we've got one part of the word, obviously, and the second one. So if we think about nil, we know that that means nothing. And Sam, we know, is his son. So this is really a representation that without Sam, Jera is nothing, that actually becoming a father has made a huge difference to his life and given his life meaning and made him realise the importance of family relationships to him. So really actually looking and digging deep into the words that are used, the purposeful nature of those choices that have been made by the author, and explaining how you understand that. Last important point, as you get used to picking out the right quotes, it's really, you're going to get high marks if you are able to integrate the quotes into what you are saying really fluently. So as much as you can, you have to make them flow on from your own words, which is called embedding the quotes. So there's an example here. The girl rides her bicycle out of the town far enough to look along the highway. Page 68. She sees there might be more to her life, but does not venture beyond the world she knows too well, which we would know is in reference to the story Distant Lands. So we can see here, instead of putting their own words into that first sentence, they've actually integrated two quotes that have been chosen from that page in the text to put in to say what they want to say. They could have written that in their own words and then put a quote at the end, but they've actually integrated those two quotes to make that sentence and to make it work. So hopefully you've learnt a little from this about, or a lot from this, about how to use quotes. And in class we will be looking at what particular quotes are going to be the best to use for what themes or to support what points you want to make in your essays. Thanks everyone.